Hey again, everybody. Welcome to the Advanced Sports AI review and preview show. I am, as always, your host, Scott the Steamroller Steen, and joined by the brains of the outfit on each side of me, Obafemi Ayanbadejo, ex-NFL player with a fine 11-year career, and Tony DeBrua. He is a doctor over there at Johns Hopkins of Advanced AI and Machine Learning. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing pretty good. How you doing, Scott?
Doing well.
Doing
Thanks,
well.
Scott.
Thank you, guys. As always, it's a pleasure to have you guys here. Thanks for joining us here as we talk a little bit about last week and how it went. Who wants to kick it off?
Yeah, I mean, I think our point totals are doing pretty good, actually. You know, I think that we had a pretty good week overall on our high confidence picks, and I think I did throw a high confidence pick out on Thursday. We actually hit it on both sides. Do you remember that? You remember that pick that I threw out there on last week?
I believe that was the Cowboys there that you had on the Thursday night football game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so we actually hit the. So I actually had the Giants. Remember when I came on, the Giants were +6,
right?
And I actually said take the Giants +6. And then as the week went on, the line went down to 4.5, and we actually pushed it out at Cowboys -4.5. So we actually hit both sides of that on the high confidence pick. So I gave the verbal on the Giants, and then we hit the Cowboys on the actual pick that we sent out. So that's a rare thing that happens, but you know, that's when you have a game that's tapped in the right way, that's what can happen in regard to kind of, you know, hitting it on both sides. So not a normal occurrence, but it worked out in both cases. I'm hoping some people took the Giants at +6, and obviously the high confidence pick at +4.5, or I'm sorry, Cowboys -4.5 was what we had pushed out. So hopefully people got that as well.
Yep. It was a threading the needle there in a very, very well done manner. A couple other highlights of the high confidence picks. You had the Jags, you had the Commanders, and you had the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that I didn't really believe in for that game, but I should have listened to you guys because the Chiefs, they were able to take care of business despite losing another integral part of that offense. Somehow Kansas City continues to get it done. And, you know, one of the ones that wasn't a winner was the Rams, and that certainly could have gone differently at the end of the game as the Rams had a chance to drive for the win and couldn't quite pull it off. So, it wouldn't be one of these shows if I wasn't complaining about the one that.
No, it's all good. No, you're right. The Rams bothers me, and so does the Carolina and Cincinnati game. I think we had that as well.
Right.
You know, I think Carolina hung in there tough, and then they gave up on 4 broken tackles. Carolina gets 7 points, and then obviously the Red Rifle throws an unwarranted interception that then obviously put the game out of reach. But they had a chance at the end there to cover if they could have scored on that last drive, and obviously they didn't. But you know, this has been a very interesting season, the most volatile season that we've tracked to date so far. A lot of interesting injuries, rules changes, and things like that. What's been the more consistent has actually been our point total. Our point total has actually performed really well. That's not sexy for people. You know, a lot of people are focused on the spread, but we've actually done pretty well on the money line and actually on the point total as well. But the spread is, you know, it's the diamond, right? It's what everyone's looking at. So, you know, I think we're gonna perform better. You know, we're looking at things internally and just making sure that we're crossing the T's and dotting the I's. I know it's, you know, we've had 4 weeks. We're going into week 5. It feels like the season is 3/4 of the way through, but it's only 1/4 of the way through, actually. You know what I mean? And I know we're prisoners of the moment, and we live and die by what happens in the present and what happens day to day. And I totally understand it because I'm the same way. Like I feel exactly the same way everyone else feels in regard to like kind of being in the moment. And you know, there's a phrase that they have in the stock market, which basically goes that money goes from impatient hands to patient hands. So my statement is have patient hands. You know what I mean? Understand the process and understand that there's a ton of data that backs the research and the projections that we do. So a month does not make a market, nor does a month make a betting season either. So just, you know, stay focused, stay on target. And I'm very confident about the long term, regardless of the ups and downs and the ebb and flows of volatility and different injuries and learning about different teams and how things are going to work out. You know, you look at Miami without Tua. Who are they without Tua? They're not even they're a Division I football team without Tua, I guess.
They are
You know
the
what I mean?
lowest scoring team in the NFL, averaging 11.3 points per game. Who would
I
have
mean,
thought?
that game was the messiest, ugliest game I've seen in a while in regard to some of the dumb stuff that Miami did with the football. And I love Snoop Huntley, and he's a former Raven, and he did some good work here for Baltimore. But the bottom line is that he just got thrown into the mix, and then you have Will Levis get hurt, and the backup outplays him. So I don't know what Tennessee's going to do next week in regard to the starting quarterback, but there could be some opportunity there and some changes because the QB is the most important position. You notice that the Raiders didn't have Devontae Adams, they didn't have Max Crosby, and the Browns, the line moved a bit, obviously, toward the Browns, but the Raiders actually covered the original line and the new line. You know what I mean? So it just shows you that it really does come down to quarterback play and playing clean football. Not necessarily having your best receiver or your best defensive player does not mean you're not going to win. And I think that's the thing that people have a hard time wrapping their head around when it comes to the NFL is that it's a QB-driven league, and then it's head coaches and coordinators. It really is. And if you come up with a plan and put guys in positions to win and guys execute, guys will outperform expectation based on human impulse and assumption.
Wait, let me ask you. You bring up a good point about the quarterback being the most important position. If you see a quarterback suffer a midweek injury or a lingering injury that all of a sudden turns into a missed week, let's say Mahomes is out for a week. Now the line will probably move 4 to 5 points. Do you feel that's an accurate representation of what he brings to the table, or is it too low, too high?
It's a little subjective, but Vegas lines have been around for how many decades now? I think the market dictates the line, so it doesn't matter how we feel about it. Emotion has nothing to do with it. The line is the line. You've got to play the line that you're dealt. And what we do is obviously we have our own internal mechanisms to adjust for QB injuries and QB availability. But the internal mechanics are tied to overall team value, QB play, and then obviously lines. That those, just to oversimplify, those things, like kind of in a mishmash in a pot, is what dictates predictions to some degree. There's obviously a lot of underlying other things that go into it, but those are predictions and lines in general.
Very good. Now, Tony, you guys last week you said you were seeing a lot of things kind of behind the scenes that gave you a great amount of optimism and a great amount of hope. You guys did have a winning week, going 4-3 with the high confidence picks. We expect that kind of trend to continue.
I do. I think, again, we're kind of trending into the sweet spot of the season where we have some history behind us. We don't have to rely as much on past seasons and all of that uncertainty. So I feel pretty good about that. One thing that's on my mind for people is that when we make recommendations, I see that the Vegas line, the market, trends as the line moves, it trends towards our recommendations. So if people really want the best bargain out there, it's best to as soon as those recommendations are posted, take that line and run with it, because in most cases it's not going to get better, and in a lot of cases it gets worse. So I think the best bargains are to be had earlier.
Okay, very good.
Scott, real quick, I want to piggyback on that. Tony is 1,000% correct. When we put these lines and picks out, they are to be jumped on immediately. Like whatever you're doing, and I know this for a fact that some people were able to get the Dallas line at 4.5. Some ended up getting a push at 5. I know that happened to some people. You know what I mean? But remember, before we even talked, when it was at 6, we had the Giants. You know what I mean? So it's just if you're really wanting to bet and make money, you've got to take the line when we give it to you. And I've had multiple people come back to me and say, "Oh, I waited till Sunday." You waited till Sunday? No. You can't wait till Sunday. You take the high confidence pick when you get it and you run with it, because Tony's 1,000% correct. Vegas does catch up to us later. We have an advantage in the short term when we have that prediction. And sometimes it maintains itself, but often it doesn't. Often the line closes, or it gaps down to where you have less of an advantage. So I'm so glad he said that, because had he not mentioned it, I probably would have completely forgotten about that component to betting.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you guys again 1,000,000%. If you have any hopes at all of beating the NFL in long term, you've got to get your bets in early because as the week goes on, those lines get tightened down, Vegas gets sharper, the public shows which way they want to go, and it becomes a much more difficult task. So that's a great tip for anybody that does have the package, thinking about buying one of our packages. Make sure that you get your bet down as soon as you receive that pick. So don't forget, of course, guys, like, subscribe. You can use the code AIPICS, get you 20% off of either package. And something we haven't done a lot of, but let's talk about the two packages just a little bit. Femi, you want to lay out the details of the two options that we have available for folks?
Yeah. So actually, I don't know exactly what how you guys have packaged that, to be honest, Scott.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Are you talking about are you talking about high confidence picks versus baseline picks? Is that what you're talking about?
Baseline. Exactly.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Oh, no worries.
So the high confidence picks are obviously like our bread and butter, right? That's what we kind of hang our hat on. That's what we've had the most success on over the years. And so those high confidence picks, when they come out, like I said, those have and Tony can better articulate this from a scientific perspective, and I'll give it to you in layman's terms. Think of the baseline as a broad signal, which points in a direction, and it's a good signal, and we run with that signal, and we do well with it. But then on occasion, we have these signals that are a lot stronger, right? And they have a higher confidence interval. Those signals are the ones that we really pride ourselves on, that we want people to jump on immediately, and those are the ones that don't last forever. So the baseline is really good, but the high confidence picks is where you really make your money, and you got to move quickly. If you're uncertain about something on a baseline pick, okay, that's fine. We still think you should take those baseline picks early, but those give you a little bit more room. They're less certain. In general, we still win those, but those can move throughout the week. And if you're not certain about that, then definitely come back to it if you want to, but don't hesitate on the high confidence pick. So baseline is good. High confidence picks are better. Is that what you wanted? Hopefully I got that right. Yeah. That's
exactly what I wanted. You did a fantastic job.
Okay.
And of course, we've got links to information on both of those packages in the description of today's video. All right. So this is the review and preview show. We've done the review. Let's talk about a little preview. What do you guys, I know you don't want to give away the story, but what do you got cooked up this week?
Yes. So I really like Atlanta on Thursday night. Right now, I believe as of right now, I think we have them covering, and I think if they're -1.5, I don't know if you can see it, Scott. I don't know if you can pull it up real quick. Do you have a line in front of you?
Yeah, it's still 1.5 as of right now.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah. And Tony, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that we had Atlanta last I saw. And I don't think there's any injuries or anything to worry about. And let me tell you this. I love a team like Atlanta at home with a spread under 3. I like that. I like the home favorite on these tight lines. And not all the time, but because that would go against the whole point of letting the AI make predictions. This is a human component. Femi, what I see and what the numbers bear out is not only do home team favorites under -3 win more often. That's usually the case. That's like kind of usually what happens. These are lines -3 or less. You know what I mean? And I like the way that Atlanta has been playing. I think that Atlanta's defense is underrated. And I also think that Kirk Cousins is, he's just finding his flow. And they've been in pretty much every game that they've played in, and they're different at home than they are on the road. So with that being said, if you want to make a bet right now, take Atlanta -1.5.
All right. And that is, by the way, a slightly juiced 1.5. It's somewhere around -115, -117, depending on where you get it. So that line could be heading away from us. So just like we've been preaching the entire show, if you make that play, make it now. Make it as soon as you hear our voice and get that bet down. And I just from a non-mathematical standpoint, I like that game as well. I think this Atlanta team has done a great job running the football against any defense that wasn't just super locked down against the run. And Tampa Bay has definitely had their struggles defending the rush. So I like that play as a layman as well. So very good. Anything else?
And Scott, sure.
Sure.
I'll just say this: that it's hard to go against Tampa when you saw what they did last week, right? Like you kind of want to ride that, but what we see is teams in the NFL. It's easy to get complacent. You look at what the Ravens did to Buffalo. You know what I mean? Am I surprised? No, I'm not surprised because I'm a former Raven, and I know what the Ravens do in prime time under Coach Harbaugh. They're like 22-3 or something crazy. Like people don't realize that, and they put those black uniforms on. Ooh, you better watch out. You know what I mean? So. My point is that don't get too high on a team because they blew somebody out, because the desperate team, which the Ravens are a very desperate team right now, and they have just look at the rosters. No one can tell me that Buffalo has a better roster. Forget about the score. Just look at the field of play and the speed of play of players across the board, 1 through 53. The Ravens have an extremely talented roster. The Bills have a couple really, really, really nice pieces, and they play really good, solid team football. But if the Ravens play clean ball and the Bills play clean ball, I'm going to take the Ravens every time. The issue is that teams make mistakes, and teams tend to make mistakes when they start reading their press clippings. So Tampa had a really great game last week. They blew somebody out at home. I don't even know who they blew. I just know they blew somebody out because I basically had to turn away from that game. But they're going to go into Atlanta. I know Atlanta has something to prove. It's a short week. It's Thursday night. That spread is under 3. Atlanta at home. I just feel good about it. Now, I hope Atlanta doesn't let me down. But yeah, anyway, that's my point about week. It's a week-to-week league, and teams that play really high at home and they get a blowout win, how do they come back and respond the next week? Tampa hasn't showed me that they know how to handle success yet. The Ravens have shown me that. Kansas City has shown me that. And I'm trying to think of San Francisco has as well. I know they're 2-2 right now, but there's some teams that I still, and look at Minnesota right now. They're 4-0. Minnesota's got a big game in London. I'm very excited to see how that game goes. See, Scott, I can talk about this all week. When you ask me one question, I give you 7 answers. But yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, and just for the record, Tampa Bay blew out the Eagles, a team that I think don't look now, but may not be very good. They're having some definite internal issues, and they're showing up on the field. So, yeah, I'm with you there. You never want to put too much stock in 1 week, and especially against a team that has been struggling all season, like the Eagles. I think they're going to have a much tougher time of it in Atlanta. Anything else before we get out of here, guys?
Just that we're not resting on our laurels. Our team is always modifying, improving our models, and so it's onward and upward.
That's a very good point. It's always a work in progress, always polishing and always looking to take that next step. All right, guys. As always, appreciate you getting together with us. Once again, guys, if you want information on how to pick up either the baseline picks or the high confidence picks, that's going to be in the description of today's video. Definitely avail yourself of these two guys who know what they are doing with Advanced Sports AI. For myself, for Tony, or for Femi, appreciate you guys joining us. Have a great week. Good luck on all of your plays, and we'll see you next week on the Advanced Sports AI review and preview show. Take care, everybody.